Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks so much for joining me today. I'm Jennie Montgomery. Welcome to another half hour of information to help you make the most of your time, to make informed decisions, and to keep up with goings on around Greater Augusta. And today we're spotlighting Augustans on stage and on a big-time TV show. Heidi Gray began singing and dancing when she was just 4 years old and played many lead roles in the Augusta Players productions. But young Heidi had her sights on the Big Apple. At age 11, the North Augusta native made her Broadway debut and landed her dream role of Annie in the Broadway national tour.
When I'm stuck with the day that's gray and lonely, I just stick up my chin and grin and say, oh, the sun'll come out tomorrow, so you gotta hang on till tomorrow. Come what may, tomorrow, I love ya tomorrow. You're always a day away. When I'm stuck with the
So to play Annie, one of the first things to go was Heidi's long hair. These are photos from the national tour through 38 states here in the United States. You can see Heidi right there, some of the other girls who were the orphans in the show. The photos, again, are from the U.S. and from Jakarta, Indonesia, and Singapore. Interesting because Heidi was the first American to play Annie in Asia.
Yes.
That must have been so much fun too, right there with the radio guys.
I had to speak their language, and like it was a whole prank call thing, and it was
Oh
it
my
was
gosh,
very
you got
interesting.
pranked on Asian radio. That's great. Well, I'm so happy to welcome today Heidi Gray as our first guest. And Heidi, first of all, the video we saw, you're younger. How old are you now?
I'm 15 years old
15?
right now. Yes.
And you're a student at North Augusta High School.
Yes.
Terrific, terrific. Well, your background with the Augusta Players is pretty extensive, the players and the junior players. You've been in The Sound of Music, Fiddler on the Roof, Les Mis, A Christmas Carol, which is the musical version that they've done so many times over there, King and I, and then a whole lot more.
Yes. I can't even, there's so many, I can't even count.
And from the time you were a little kid, you loved singing and dancing.
Yes, definitely. I was like watching The Little Mermaid, and then a little segment came on after, and it was like the Broadway Little Mermaid, and I was like, that's what I want to do.
Wow, wow. Well, you trained locally. Your dancing was local and your voice training local?
Yes, all that. I did vocal training for a while here, and then I did Augusta West Dance Studio, and now I'm a senior company member at the dance studio.
Okay, so you still keep all of that, you
Yes.
keep that up.
I keep my training up.
Well, how did you go as an 11-year-old? How did you find out, and well, I guess you were 11 when you auditioned for
I
Annie,
was.
is that right? How did you find out about a big thing like that?
Well, I first auditioned in the spring before the year I got casted. My mom was like, you get to audition for a tour, and I thought it was the craziest thing. Like, I was like, a kid gets to travel and like audition and like professionally, and it was what I loved doing so much at home, and I thought it was like this big vacation. I was like, I'm going to New York to audition, and then I went and I auditioned in the spring, and then I got cut, and I was like devastated. I loved Annie so much.
Yes.
And then I actually got called back in the fall, and then that's when I got casted, and it was like a miracle. It was like my dream to like accomplish something like that, and the fact that I did it at 11 was like, it was amazing. It was so
Do
cool.
you think at 11 you're just so young that you don't have a lot of nerves? Or maybe you're not as self-conscious as somebody that's older?
I definitely think I walked in there, I was like, confidence 1000. I didn't have any nerves. I have a lot more nerves now, like just like being in
Exactly,
the
right.
industry for so long and just like knowing all the ins and outs, but like that was just like a fun, like I thought it was a vacation, like I was auditioning.
You know, there's a phrase, ignorance is bliss.
Yes.
And so maybe going into something so new, you you didn't know anything else.
Exactly.
Just go for it.
I was just giving it my all and singing my heart out and dancing my heart out.
You know, I read a review about you singing, and of course the big song from Annie is Tomorrow.
Yes.
And kids today just still sing it just like the original Broadway show that opened in the late 70s. Tomorrow is one of those songs, but this particular reviewer said that you belt out Tomorrow, which is the Let It Go of that time.
It is,
like
definitely.
nobody's business. And I thought, what, that is great. Tomorrow was that same song. It was just as big as Let It Go and Frozen. It was the song everybody knew.
Definitely. And even today, I just hear somebody say tomorrow, and then somebody's like, tomorrow, tomorrow.
And you're like...
And I'm like, exactly. I just flashbacks. Always.
Well, speaking of flashbacks, tell me a little bit about what it was like. From what I understand, you got the call that you made the national tour and you were going to be Annie.
Yes.
And then you had to show up in 2 weeks.
Yes, I did. I went home for the holidays and I celebrated Christmas, and right after that I flew out to New York and I did about 2 or 3 weeks of training in Buffalo because I had to go where the tour was. So like all the company and set was there so that I could rehearse with the adult cast.
So you were picking up the next leg of the tour, essentially.
Yes, well they were still performing. It
Right.
like no stops. Everyone was still going and working. And I learned it, and then I performed it in Providence was my opening night.
In Providence, Rhode Island.
Yes.
So now at that age, does a parent have to go with you? Or-
Yes,
Yeah.
my dad went with me on tour, but for the rehearsal process, my mom and my grandma were with me.
Yeah.
And my dad, he just loved being on tour. There was like one other dad of the kids on tour, and they just got along so well.
Oh, fun, fun. Now, Sandy the dog is a big part of Annie.
Yes.
I guess you had to learn to work with Sandy.
I did. I was, every single day, I was at dog calls and dog trainings on top of my rehearsal and school during learning the show. And that was just one of those things, like it was like a release from like the stress I had had in the day, and like I just got to bond with the dogs and
So it
learn
was
how
two
to
different
become-
dogs that played
Yes.
that role.
There was Sunny and Macy, and they're both professional, amazing dog actors.
So they were actually a little bit of pet therapy for you.
Yes, definitely. It was very therapeutic.
Okay, so you mentioned something else I was going to ask, and that was, did school just stop? And you said, no, you're still doing school.
I did school on tour. I was homeschooled. I kind of had a program with my old Paul Knox Middle School, but there was a tutor on tour with us, and she made sure that all 7 of the kids had a curriculum to follow, and that we were sending back our study hours to our counties.
Really? So she was staying on top of that for you.
Yes.
Fantastic. And with the other girls, I mean, do you still, I guess the whole cast, I say the other girls just because I think of that, but did you keep up relationships with those folks?
I still text
Yeah.
and keep contact with a lot of the girls that I was on tour with. I spend Thanksgiving is in Florida with my friend Bridget, and I go and follow my friend Molly in Virginia a lot. Since she lives so close to New York, we just kind of go on little vacations there. And I wish that I could see a lot of the other girls.
Yeah.
And I love messaging them all the time. They're so uplifting.
Well, someone that loves you very much is Lori Van Linton
Yes.
from Voce. And I talked to Lori about you yesterday, and she said that you are so disciplined and that you're great about self-care, which is so important for something like tour.
Yes.
Because so many kids come off of that and they've damaged their vocal cords or whatever.
Definitely. I think a lot, especially like in middle school, like I wanted to go into cheerleading and stuff, and I had to tell myself, I was like, I have to tone it back because this is what I want to do in the future, and I can't be damaging my vocal cords in that way.
You know what else she told me? She said one of her favorite memories about you is that she got to say to your dad after the call that you had gotten the part of Annie, she got to say to your dad, see, it's not just that we love her, she really is that talented.
Oh, it was like a big moment of realization. None of us knew, like I didn't even know that like I could pursue something like that, and it was just really a confidence boost.
Well, what's next for you, Heidi?
Right now, I'm just working on my studies and getting a lot of my dance training in, and I do vocal lessons with a teacher in New York on Skype, and I just want to have a foundation so that for the future, I really want to pursue musical theater, and I want to have all the skills I need to have for the opportunities I want to have open for me.
Well, your resume is off to an astounding start, young lady. Thank you so much for being here today on The Jennie Show.
Thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure meeting you, Heidi Gray.
Yeah.
Still ahead on Jennie, it's an imaginary conversation between victims of racial intolerance and hatred. How the powerful play Anne and Emmett will impact audiences in Augusta right after the break.